Why is it that we seem to know so much, but honestly we end up learning so little? We live in the greatest information age in human history, which, sounds pretty impressive, until you realize that most of us use it to become confused at a much higher speed. I can now find an answer to almost anything in 10 seconds. I can read expert opinions, watch lectures, download books, follow courses, listen to podcasts, and open 17 tabs on a subject I did not even care about 20 minutes ago. And yet after all that, I sometimes close the laptop and think, what did I actually learn? Not what did I see, not what did I save, not what did I vaguely recognize while nodding like a wise little monk. What did I actually learn? That is the strange problem of modern life. Information is everywhere, but attention is not. And without attention, information does not become knowledge, it becomes noise. With better branding. I know this from my own life too. I've had days where I listened to a podcast while walking, checked the news while making coffee, watched a video about productivity while avoiding actual work, and then rewarded myself by reading an article about focus. Very educational, also slightly ridiculous. At the end of it, my brain did not feel smarter. It felt like a drawer full of cables. Everything probably useful, but nothing connected. And honestly, that is the point. We often mistake exposure for learning. We see an idea once, and because it feels familiar later, we think we know it. But recognition is not understanding. I can recognize a piano. That does not mean you want me playing one at your wedding. Learning means you can recall something, explain it, connect it, and use it. That is a much higher standard. Annoying, but useful. This is where Jim Kwik's book, Limitless, has a helpful message. He argues that learning is not just about intelligence, it is about mindset, motivation, and method. In other words, the issue is not only what enters your brain, the issue is what your brain is trained to do with it. And I think that matters more now than ever, because the old problem was access. Information was scarce, books were expensive, experts were far away. If you wanted to know something, you had to search. Now the search is over. The information has arrived. All of it, constantly, loudly, with notifications, So the bottleneck has moved, that the rare skill is no longer finding information. The rare skill is staying with one idea long enough for it to change how you think. And that is where many of us struggle. The first trap is speed. Everything pushes us to consume faster. Shorter videos, faster summaries, podcasts at double speed, articles reduced to key takeaways, books reduced to 5 lessons, wisdom turned into snack food. Now, I am not against summaries. I use them too. Sometimes you just want the core idea without wandering through 260 pages and 3 childhood stories from the author. But if everything becomes fast, nothing becomes deep. Some ideas need time. You need to sit with them, Test them against your own life. Ask yourself, do I actually agree with this? Where have I seen this? What would change if I took it seriously? That is not slow because you are stupid. It is slow because thinking takes time. Terribly inconvenient, I know. The second trap is collecting. I used to save articles as if saving them was a form of learning. Very noble, very organized, also mostly nonsense. A saved article is not a read article. A highlighted sentence is not an applied sentence. A book on your shelf is not wisdom, it is furniture with ambition. We collect ideas because collecting feels productive, but learning begins when we stop collecting and start digesting. One good idea properly understood can be worth more than 50 clever ideas politely stored and never used. The third trap is outsourcing memory too quickly. Because, everything can be looked up, we just stop trying to remember. And yes, of course, we do not need to memorize everything. I am not suggesting we all return to candlelight and Latin verbs. But memory is not just storage. Memory is where ideas meet each other. If nothing stays in your head, nothing can connect. You become dependent on search, but weak in understanding. Real knowledge needs some internal furniture. A few strong concepts, a few examples, a few mental hooks. Otherwise, every idea enters your mind like a tourist and leaves before dinner. So what do we do? First, Choose before you consume. Before watching, reading, or listening, ask yourself, what am I trying to understand? That one question changes everything. It gives your attention a target. Without a question, your brain is just an open browser tab with feelings. Second, consume less but better. Take one article, one chapter, one video, and just, stay with it. Pause, think, disagree, summarize it in your own words. If you cannot explain it simply, you probably did not learn it. You visited it. Third, recall before you reread. Close the book, stop the video. Ask yourself, what were the 3 main points? This feels harder than rereading, which is exactly why it works. Rereading gives comfort, recall builds strength. Fourth, apply one idea quickly, not 20. 1. If you learn about focus, do one focused block tomorrow. If you learn about health, change one meal. If you learn about communication, try one better question in your next conversation. Knowledge that never touches behavior is just decoration for the personality. And that, I think, is the real lesson. The goal is not to know everything. That would be exhausting. Also deeply annoying at dinner parties. The goal is to protect enough attention that the right things can actually shape you. Because information is everywhere, but attention is rare, and whatever gets your attention slowly gets your life.